everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the What's Trending webinar. We're going to give it a few more minutes just to let everyone join in, and then we'll be starting. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the What's Trending webinar. We're going to get started now. My name is Ariel Smith. Thank you for joining us today. I'm here with my Break the Cycle colleagues, Jasmine Seha and Christina Marie Santillan. Before we begin, I just want to go over some logistics for today's webinar. If you are disconnected from the webinar at any time, just go back to the original email and click on the link again to log back in. If you have any problems getting back on, please call iLink support at 1-800-799-4510. We will be muting everyone on the call, so use the chat feature for any questions, problems, or comments that you have. You can find the chat box on the lower corner of your screen. If you happen to be only on the audio portion, you can email me at asmith@breakthecycle.org with questions or comments, and I will chat that into the chat box in just a minute. We will have space for questions throughout the webinar. Please chat your questions. If we can't get to them on this call, we will reach out to you afterwards. We know that we have a lot of ground to cover, and we also want to make sure that we can address all of your questions. If you do run into any technical problems, please send me a private chat. My name again is Ariel Smith. To do this, click on the gray private tab to the right of the public tab inside of the chat box. Double click on my name, Ariel Smith, and a box will open up for you to send me a private message. So without further ado, we will now start.
Great, thank you, Ariel. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this What's Trending webinar. Just want to give a brief welcome and intro, Ariel mentioned that I have my colleague Christina Marie here as well, and I'm so excited to see so many people attending this, and we're going to be talking all about social media and fun things that are happening online, so it should be very interesting for the next few minutes that I have you. Just wanted to make sure that I give a quick, just briefer. If you don't know, a lot of what we'll be talking about is pulled from the Start Talking curriculum and program that is sponsored by HCSC. And I will be putting the link for more information on curriculum info, but what we decided to do was focus just on how to start talking about the media. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Just to make sure that everyone can hear me, if you just want to go ahead and use that public chat feature to just let us know where you're from. If you're from Illinois, New Mexico, Oklahoma, or Texas, just give yourself a shout out so we can see that in the public chat. So let's go ahead and move on and get this going. So just a quick webinar overview. We have 3 objectives for the hour or 45 minutes that we're going to be discussing. And what that is you'll gain an understanding on the influence that media and pop culture trends have on dating relationships, especially dating relationships with our youth demographic of 12 all the way up to 24. So that's middle, high school, and college students. We're also going to learn how to identify and analyze current social media and pop culture trends and make them into an awareness level that is positive and will actually promote change. And lastly, you'll learn how to apply current trends into creating healthy relationship conversations with youth. Now, we're going to go about this in 2 different angles. We will address it with youth in general, maybe youth that you have worked with at youth groups or possibly even as a parent. So we'll try to focus on both avenues, but if at any point you have any questions or if there's any issues with being able to hear us, please go ahead and use that chat feature. So I see that I have a few people shouting out where they're from, so welcome Illinois. I see Oklahoma. Thank you so much for attending the webinar. So just real quick, we wanted to highlight theory, the social theory of learning, and how that interacts with how young people see information and apply it to their behaviors and their relationships. So we know that the social theory of learning was discovered by Albert Bandura back in the 1960s, and it draws heavily on the concept of modeling or learning and observing behavior. So one way this modeling occurs is symbolic, or by the means of media. So that's what we're talking about today. This can include movies, television, internet, literature, and even radio. We'll definitely examine our favorite music videos and lyrics in a few minutes. But we know that this stimuli can either be real or fictional, and what tends to happen is they gather this information and they emulate this behavior in their personal relationships. So just a quick understanding, when we were talking about media and when we wanted to apply it to a bigger idea of understanding, we are using the social theory of learning. So you can see the model here. It's kind of a cycle. They have the perceptions, they have the emotions, they have the meanings, they apply to their behavior, and it also has to do a lot with their environmental factors. So if we have an environment, which we do, where a lot of people, the first thing they do in the morning is take out their phone and check Facebook to see what the news is, or TMZ has now become a reliable news source. We'll be talking about how that influences their behavior throughout their relationships and even throughout their daily activities. Great. So before we begin understanding the influence of media, we need to understand how youth hear about what's trending. So we can think about when we were younger, where do we get our news from? For me, a lot of it was my parents would wake me up and tell me of something that was happening on TV, or I would get ready and watch the local TV news station before I head out to school. Nowadays, there's a lot more of resources online where people can capture media news. There's BuzzFeed articles, there's Twitter, which now I know, being from California, if I feel that there's an earthquake, I'll check Twitter even before I turn the TV on. So how do youth hear about what's trending? We have the online portion and the offline portion. We put online first because that's normally the first go-to. Behind the computer interaction is probably the first thing they do before they even wake up and say hello to someone, but there's social media. Gave you a few: Facebook, Twitter. news sites, and this could be something like TMZ, which people, can go back and forth on, the news site of that, but CNN and whatever else you use, TV, text messages, YouTube. We know that a lot of them are viewing tutorials or hearing music videos or parodies, so that's where they get to see what's trending. And YouTube, in the past few years, has been a big driving force on what's popular. We know that we have celebrities who have a certain celebrity status from music and acting, but now we have YouTube celebrities that brings on a whole genre. And what makes YouTube celebrities is all about how viral the video goes. And when we say viral, it's like how many likes, how many shares, how many of your coworkers come in that day saying, "Did you see this video?" So that's what it means about going viral, and that's what catches the attention of a lot of young people and even adults. They still are influenced, and they still get information on what's trending from offline sources like their friends, school, and family. So we're gonna be talking about both areas, but we're gonna focus a lot more on the online portion. So before we get started, just want to again incorporate the voice. I know that we don't have the ability to hear everyone's voice, but chat works just fine. And being that we're talking about an online What's Trending webinar, most people chat every day before they call. So if you want to just chat any other avenues of where you think young people hear about what's trending, whether it's a certain website or a certain news page, we're going to get started about focusing on the individual social media sites. So I'm going to pass it on to Christina Marie now. But if you want to chat anything else, go ahead and feel free to do that, and I'll keep an eye and we'll bring it up. So Christina Marie.
All right. Thank you, Jasmine. So we're going to go ahead, like Jasmine said, and move into our discussion about how media and relationships. And so in the Start Talking curriculum, we use digital media and pop culture to talk about relationships and how young people may view them either as healthy, unhealthy, or abusive. And so the first slide we have here is talking about celebrity couples. And so this is something that we found was a very popular discussion among young people. When in the classroom, they would always bring up, well, what about, Jay-Z and Beyonce? They seem like they're a really healthy couple. The way that they present themselves, the way that they support each other. And obviously, none of us, or I don't know them personally, and I haven't met anyone yet who has known them personally, but we're just going off of, what they show in the media and what's portrayed. And so, as Jasmine mentioned earlier with the social theory of learning, it doesn't have to be an actual relationship. It can just be a portrayal of one. And so when we talk about celebrity couples and we think about, if you go back to when you were 15, let's say, and think about, whatever celebrity you looked up to at the time, and, did they influence the way that you dressed? Did they influence the way that, what kind of music you liked, what kind of style you had? We know that young people are affected, especially by their role models in pop culture. So when we talk about relationships, we want to see what types of relationships are being portrayed. So we have Jay-Z and Beyonce, which were generally portrayed as healthy until, recently, this, new scandal with the whole elevator situation, and then, rumors about Jay-Z and Beyonce's relationship as far as, is there cheating involved, and, we don't know. Kanye and Kim Kardashian is another popular couple that a lot of teens are talking about. I know Keeping Up with the Kardashians is a really popular show, and so they're always talking about, oh, well, Kim Kardashian just made a selfie book for Kanye. How sweet, she thought of him while she was on vacation, things like that. And the newest couple that's been talked about recently, actually as of this past week, is Sarah Hyland, and who's an actress from Modern Family. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the show, but she's the oldest daughter on that show, and her long-term boyfriend, Matt Prokop. And so they've been in a relationship for about 5 years or so, and recently Sarah came out and reported that Matt had sent her threatening texts, choked her, and even threatened to kill her dog. And so for those different reasons, she decided to get a restraining order against Matt, and so that just came out this past week. And so generally this couple was seen as healthy, and then now this is coming out that, it may be more abusive than we had realized. And so we can use these opportunities in the media to talk about dating abuse and the fact that it can happen to anyone. And so that's something that, we take advantage of as far as being able to relate to young people and talk about what they want to talk about as well. Okay, so we have celebrity couples, and we also capitalize on using favorite TV shows, one of them being MTV's Catfish. And this show was it's inspired by the 2010 documentary that has the same name, and it talks about, online dating, and it shows, how love can be complicated, and also it shows examples of abuse on both sides. So you have, generally there's one person who's lying about who they are. They may have a fake profile on Facebook. They may be, using a fake name. And then there's also the person that is being lied to, who may be experiencing emotional abuse, deception, thinking that they're talking to one person. It could turn out to be someone completely different, if not even a different gender. And so we highlight this show in Start Talking because it's a perfect opportunity to talk about, are there differences in the intention of the unhealthy or abusive behaviors? So a lot of times at the end of the show, the person who was lying will say, well, I just didn't know if you would actually like me, the real me. So I decided to make up this fake person because it just seemed more comfortable, and they seemed like the perfect person, and I knew you would like them. And so it usually is just deeper than trying to hurt someone, but does the intention matter? And are either people looking to intentionally hurt the other person, or is it just for fun? And often in cases like this, one or both people have been hiding details about their lives from the other person, and this is definitely an unhealthy or abusive behavior. But we can still understand why some choose to connect with people in secret, or maybe they're ashamed or hurt by something, or afraid that they won't be accepted. So on the other hand, when the catfish, the person lying to, is revealed, the other person involved usually has an extreme or emotional reaction. And so how might their emotions, while understandable, also be considered abuse? So when you can experience something like that, how does that affect your trust in others? And we talk about, how would your reaction to a catfish situation be different than a normal relationship, quote unquote. I just want to pause for a second. Is there any questions or any comments about if any of you have seen that show Catfish, or any other shows that you can think about on TV or with celebrities that you have heard about young people talking about? Okay, so I'm going to continue on, but we'll definitely keep an eye out for your answers in the chat feature. So here we see a slide about music videos, and this is another way that we relate to young people. So I have two different song lyrics up on the screen. I'm going to go over these lyrics, and then we can talk about how we can use this to talk about relationships. So the first, in the top left of the screen, you'll see the lyrics from the band Perry. The song is called Better Dig 2. And so the lyrics read, "Here lies the girl whose only crutch was loving one man just a little too much. If you go before I do, I'm going to tell the gravedigger that he better dig too." So we can see just, in those lyrics, it's definitely not a healthy relationship. The idea that, I can't live without you, if you die, I'm going to kill myself. If you leave me, I'm going to kill myself. And that's often something that's overlooked as abusive, is threatening suicide. And so that's something we definitely talk with young people. And also that's another thing that had happened with Sarah Hyland and her boyfriend. He had threatened to kill himself if she left him. So it's definitely something that happens often but is overlooked. And so, that is sensationalized in songs and pop culture. On the bottom left, we see, on the bottom right, sorry, we see some lyrics from the popular song by Robin Thicke, Pharrell, and T.I. called Blurred Lines. And this song is interesting because it's really catchy, kind of upbeat song. But if you listen to the lyrics, I just pulled a few here, we can see that it says, "I know you want it, you're a good girl, can't let it get past me. And so when we think about, what blurred lines mean, and with all this talk about sexual assault, in the media and on college campuses, and talking about, yes means yes, yes means no, all these different things, we think about blurred lines and what this is encouraging people, to think of when they're in a situation where, maybe they're not sure if it's consensual or not, but this is, implying that, that he knows what she wants, and that it's not quite clear, but he knows, and he's just gonna do what he wants. And so these are the types of messages that we see, and it's not all bad, but we do like to point out, and just so that young people can become critical viewers of music videos and the music that they're listening to. And so on the next slide, we have a popular learning tool that we like to use. We got this activity from the Start Strong initiative in Boston. And this is a great way to examine music lyrics and music videos to engage youth in recognizing healthy and unhealthy messages in mainstream music. So this is an optional activity to add to the Start Talking curriculum, but I know that we often use it in our youth trainings, and it can take place of the MTV video clips, if wherever you're presenting does not have the capability to show video. Right, so again, I just want to point out, a lot of times when we talk to adults, we often hear like, oh, I know, the music these days, and the music that the kids are listening to these days. And it is interesting because we've also done adult trainings where we do the same activity, and we can find songs from, way back when, and we can also find unhealthy messages in those songs as well. So it's not just one genre of music, it's not just from one, a certain age range. It definitely does spread across. And so it's just a really great way to become critical thinkers of the media.
So we'll take a second right now to have some flashback moments. I just put in the chat features in the public chat box, what are some other songs you'd include in this discussion? So to spare everyone from me singing, but I will say a few lyrics. If you remember this song, it's like every step you take, every breath you make, I'll be watching you. And maybe someone can play Name That Tune and pop, who's the artist and what's the song title. But just think about that when we hear these videos, and that song was in the 80s, and the music video, yes, thank you, Debbie, The Police. I believe that's right.
Yes,
there you go, Michelle.
Ding, ding, ding.
So every step you take, every breath you make, I'll be watching you. So if we think about dating abuse, and when we talk about the definition of dating abuse, it incorporates the dynamic of power and control. So if somebody is saying every step you make, no matter where you go, no matter how you breathe, I'm going to be there. We break it down and we say, could that imply unhealthy behaviors? Does that take it to the next level of, hey, this is not just cute and romantic, this is possessive? And these are the things that we really encourage young people and adults alike to take a look at. Because when we see media and we see this type of sensationalizing violence and romanticizing these things that are really jealous and possessive behaviors, what message does that send? I can't live or without you. Okay, from Katie, with or without you, I can't live with or without you. And that's a U2 song, yes. And everybody, if you have an iPhone, you got a YouTube album, so another thing that's trending. But yeah, think back to your favorite song. I know we often use Carrie Underwood before he cheats in this activity. And if you all know that song, if you're starting to sing it in your head, she's pretty blunt about what she would do. She's going to take a bat to his car. She's going to key his car. She's going to carve his name in his leather seat. So he knows that next time he better think twice before he cheats. And she also says that the next time he cheats, it won't be on her, because that's her way of saying, I'm going to damage basically your property and break up with you. And we get that may, songs and artists, they build lyrics around emotions that we can all relate to. But when we're putting these emotions out there and we're saying these things, can it affect someone's idea of, if you ever break up with me, I'm keying your car? And can they justify that by, wow, I'm angry and this is what we do? So we try to break down that behavior. So Dixie Chicks, Earl Had to Die.
Oh, that's a good one. Yes.
Yes, that is a great one. So you can find music of all genre, and that's something I love. We were just at a training with youth in Oklahoma, and they gave me, I believe it was a Christian band, and they were talking about how there's also healthy lyrics in songs and videos. And that's definitely something that you want to do. I can put the link out so you can see this activity. We have this activity built into our Start Talking curriculum. It was not created by us, but that's the great thing about tools that work in our network. When we know something works, we use it, we share it, and we promote it. And this activity was actually designed by young people from the Start Strong initiative. It's a group of young people who are focused on violence prevention. So not to get caught up on music, because I have like 3 songs in my head, we're going to move on to the next slide.
Okay, so now we want to take a moment to ask you all what you think. So there's a statistic up here. I'm going to read it off. It says blank amount of dating, or blank percentage of dating teens reported experiencing abuse online or through text from partners. So we have here 4 different options. So when you see it pop up on your screen, go ahead and choose which one you think is true. A reads 77%, B 5%, C 14%, or D 26%. And I'll give you all a few seconds to think that over. Okay, so I see here that we have 32% say A, 3% are saying B, and 21% are saying D. And so this goes back to a study that was done in 2011 by the National Institute of Justice, and they examined the role of youth technology use in teen dating violence, abuse, and bullying. So what they did is they got a total of 5,647 youth from 10 middle and high schools in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania who participated in the study, which presents the most comprehensive research to date on the subject. So the study's findings show that more than a quarter, or 26%, of youth in relationships said they experienced some form of cyber dating abuse victimization in the prior year. So youth experienced cyber dating abuse at a rate that was comparable to that of physical dating violence, about half that of psychological dating abuse, and twice that of sexual coercion. So less than 1 out of the 10 victims reported seeking help. And as you can see, despite this overlap between cyber abuse and other forms of violence and abuse or bullying, some youth only experience cyber abuse. So making it, making the connection and focusing on digital abuse is important to distinguish and to focus on. So good job, people who said D.
And I know that we think that, I probably would have guessed 77% because we think, abuse happens so much. And again, these are reported cases, and statistics, depending on the population can vary. But just keep in mind that, there are teens and young people who are reporting these issues in excessive amounts and experiencing abuse online. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back to the chat where we're going to move on. If you have questions, go ahead and put those in the public chat, and we will definitely address them.
All right, so now we're moving on to hashtag and meme talk, which is my favorite part. So, how does popular culture and media influence our perceptions of healthy and unhealthy relationships? We can also talk about this by looking at what's being tweeted online and what types of things are being shared with friends among young people. So you'll see here on the slide, we have a few different tweets, and I'm going to go ahead and read them aloud, and then we can talk about them. So the first one on the top left, we did block out all usernames and everything just to keep confidentiality, but on the top left, we have here the popular hashtag, "My boyfriend's not allowed to." And so a lot of young people will use this and then choose whatever they want to post. So it says, my boyfriend's not allowed to hide his phone from me. As long as we're together, it's not an iPhone, it's a we phone. And she put a little hand, like a little hand pointing her finger at her boyfriend. And so, when we talk about jealousy and is jealousy a sign of love, this is something that can start that conversation. Do you have to, if you really trust your partner, do you have to check, their phone, check their messages, check their texts? And is that healthy? And the answer is no. And so we see here in the bottom left, we also have the hashtag, my girlfriend's not allowed to. So it says, my girlfriend's not allowed to talk to anyone. I replaced all her contacts with my number. Go ahead, call your dad. I'm going to pick up. And so we see that, from both sides, both genders explain, abusive behaviors in the way that we would call that emotional abuse, telling someone what they can do, who they can and can't talk to. And so that's something we also talk about. And if we notice here, what's really interesting is on the bottom of that tweet, you'll see the number of retweets. And so this is the amount of times that other people who saw this post decided to share this onto their feed with all of their friends. So 178 people decided to share this post, and 88 people decided to make it their favorite. And so that just kind of shows, again, how these unhealthy messages are being spread. We see here, though, on the right, some other picture quotes or e-cards or memes is what they're called. So basically it's a picture of some sort with a quote on top of it. So the first one says, you think flirting with my boyfriend is cute? Wait until you see how cute it is when I punch you in your stupid looking face. And you see here it's kind of contradicting as we see a little girl, eating her ice cream with her puppy. She's looking very cute and innocent, but yet she's threatening her boyfriend, about flirting or talking to other girls. Next to that, we have another one that says, it took you 15 minutes to get home. Google Maps says it only takes 12. Who is she? And there we can see, again, it's not always a male perpetrator. We have here, both of these examples are using girls. And so this is, when we talk about using GPS devices to track your partner, is something we often see in abusive relationships. False accusations of cheating when, someone is a couple minutes late. I think he was 3 minutes late in this case. And so right away she goes to accuse him of cheating. And so these are perfect opportunities. And young people really like talking about memes, and usually when you start bringing up couple, they'll show you other examples of memes that they've seen online or that they've seen shared. But we don't, there isn't only the negative being shared. We do also see healthy posts online, especially on Twitter. And so on the bottom right, you'll see an example of a healthy post that reads, hashtag wife her if she knows the 7 keys to a healthy relationship. And then it lists different trust, honesty, communication, understanding, friendship, freedom, and respect. And so that, if you see the retweets for that, it was shared 184 times and favored it 45 times. So that's really great to see that. We're not trying to say that, memes are bad, hashtags are bad, or don't do this. But we just want people, again, to be aware of what's out there. And when they see something, is it as bad to share a joke as it is to create one? And, if you're forwarding bad jokes, we want to think about, being responsible and what types of things do we want to be sharing with our friends. So that's, social media and hashtags. You can definitely use the chat feature if you have other hashtags that you've seen online. I know there's so many, we just wanted to pull a few. Okay, so moving on to more examples. We often talk about healthy boundaries, and so, if a young person knows what they are okay with, what they're not okay with, they're going to be more comfortable pointing out when their partner crosses the line and saying, hey, this isn't cool. And so we have an example here of, in society we often cross that line as well. And this example is with eBay. It happened a couple years ago, and they decided to allow a shirt, a couple of shirts actually, being sold that were very offensive and, you know, making jokes about rape. So I know this image is very blurry. There weren't very many to pull since it was pulled off the internet, but this one reads, the shirt says, "I'm feeling rapey." And so this was something that, you know, outraged a lot of people online. And so it was, I think they had 94,000 followers through this campaign called Everyday Sexism. And so they got all these people to come together and tweet or email eBay saying, hey, this isn't cool. Take this off. You know, how could you allow this to be sold? And as you see in the bottom right, one person, this was an hour after it had been posted, said, this is absolutely disgusting. Would eBay allow t-shirts that advocated child abuse or racially motivated murder? I think not. And so, you know, the word got out, the power of online activism did its job, and within a couple hours, eBay did remove all the t-shirts and did not allow them to be sold anymore. And so, again, you know, and along with this campaign, the hashtag dubbed was everyday rape culture, because we see things like this in the media. But more importantly, it's great that in this example, we had people come together to say, hey, this isn't cool, this crosses the line, and we're going to do something about it. Okay, and so going on, we have a few different apps that are really popular, and we talk about these apps when we mention sexting. And so, as most of you have heard, you know, sexting is sending any nude, semi-nude, or sexual pictures or videos of yourself or suggestive content to others via like text or instant message. There's so many different ways to send these types of things nowadays. A lot of times, you know, when we're talking in the classroom, it's a pretty well-known thing that everyone does this, or it's very popular to do this. But a lot of times adults will ask, you know, why do youth share photos? Why would they put themselves out there like this, knowing that there could be legal consequences, you know, involved? And so this new trend is a way that teens sometimes show intimacy and trust in a relationship. You know, if you love me, you'll send me this. And we talk about, you know, is that healthy? Do you have to send, you know, do you have to do something that you may be uncomfortable with just to show your partner that you love them? And so I found this article online that talked about Snapchat. And as most of you know, Snapchat is one of these apps that allows users to send a picture, as you see in the top right of the screen. And then you could put a little caption, whatever you want. And then on the far right, you can see a list of names. And so you could send it to one friend or all your friends. And it allows the picture to be viewed for 10 seconds. And you can even combine different pictures to show what they call a story. So it could be like 5 different pictures, and it'll play them all at once for 10 seconds each. So, you know, there was actually a court settlement involving Snapchat because Snapchat has been claiming that these pictures are temporary, that after the 10 seconds they disappear forever, and we know that that's not true. And so the Federal Trade Commission took Snapchat to court, and you know, they were forced to settle over the allegations of misleading consumers and misusing customer data. And so this is something we talk about, you know, with young people. We tell them, you know, we're not telling you what to do. Again, it's your choice at the end of the day, but just know that, you know, this is not temporary. It can be found in cyberspace somewhere. And we know we've heard all the leaking of photos of celebrities recently as well. And so nothing is safe once it's put out there. It can definitely be misused, and especially in the context of an abusive relationship. You know, if you send this picture to your partner, you may think it's fine now, but later on, if this turns out to be, you know, an abusive relationship or something like that, then your partner can use this against you. Blackmail is another thing we talk about, and also, you know, getting someone to do something because of in fear of having this picture exposed to all of their friends and family. And so another thing we talk about are the legal consequences of sexting as a minor. And so we know that, if you're under the age of 18, and I know it varies among states, but you can be prosecuted for child pornography if you distribute or receive nude pictures of other minors. And so we know of one case in one high school where this actually did happen. The young person who shared the photo of themselves I'm not sure if they were convicted, or if they were just involved in the case.
Yeah, so the way it works, and we'll reference here in California, what happened is basically an image of somebody was sent to their partner. Somehow, some way or another, the image got removed from the partner's phone and sent to a bunch of other classmates. And although the partner didn't send it, everyone now who was in possession of that image, because it was a minor and because it was, an inappropriate nude photo, they now had the legal FBI and all kinds of other people going in there and investigating and interviewing them for the rest of the school day because it would be considered child pornography. And our laws are kind of catching up with sexting, and we know that, our laws can often be outdated, but with technology, it is so fast that we got to continue to make it something that's addressed and talked about on a daily basis. So schools have policies on sexual harassment for the most part. A lot of schools are working to build specific dating abuse or dating violence policies. But within sexual harassment, that could, by definition, fall under there, but because it doesn't specifically say photos or messaging on a lot of policies, the lines are blurred. But yes, we do want to always talk to young people about, if you have a photo of someone please don't share it, report it, because if you think it might be funny, share it to just one more person, you are now distributing that image. So we can always share in another email some of the reports we have on the legal system, because it is very, it can be very complicated state by state, but just that general understanding on a federal level, child pornography, having that image is, big time trouble for a lot of people in general. So something that they should be aware of, because there are consequences to their action, and that is so hard for young people to understand in their development, but there are consequences, and some are bigger than just being suspended from school for a day. That can follow you for the rest of your life.
Right. And so now we want to take an opportunity to ask you all, what other apps do you know of that are popular among teens to share photos or videos besides Snapchat? This is just one example, but I know there are many different ones with Androids and iPhones as well. So I'm going to go ahead and give you all a second to use the chat box to go ahead and name some of those apps that you know of. Okay, so we see here we have Kik, Instagram. Definitely, and Instagram just came out with a new feature called Direct Message, or DM, where now you can send private messages and private photos to each other, whereas before you would post one picture and it would go to all of your friends. So yes, definitely Instagram's new feature. Definitely Kik is very similar to Snapchat. I see here Facebook, and that could be that messenger application as well. And Pinster. I know also WhatsApp Messenger is very popular. And I just heard about Glide, which is an app used for Androids, and that one's mainly for sending videos. And so same concept as Snapchat, but with videos, which Snapchat actually now can also do videos.
So I'm going to go ahead and pull up some information on some of these, and we'll go ahead and address the Kik count and WhatsApp and Glide, and we'll put this in a chat towards the end of the webinar as we open up to questions. So we're going to move on just to keep the pace going, but I definitely will be working on that on the back end.
All right, thank you all for that input. So we're going to move on to let me see if I can. There we go. We're going to move on to advertisements in the media. And so we have, we also have to think about, what are the messages in popular advertisements? And so we see here on the screen, we have 3 different ones. On the far left is a Valentino advertisement for, I don't know, it's really hard to tell what it's for in the beginning. We see that he's holding her chin, looks pretty forcefully. She doesn't look very happy about it, but apparently it is to sell sunglasses. And so again, this advertisement is misleading, and it's definitely portraying an unhealthy relationship. We see in the middle, we have a Reebok advertisement that says, cheat on your girlfriend, not on your workout. And so, this one definitely is trying to talk about, working out and exercising, and, that you should never give up on that, but definitely we shouldn't have that at the expense of a healthy relationship. And so I know that Reebok advertisement is actually taken down. And
yes. I've actually, when I was Googling advertisements in the media about, relationships, many more negative ones popped up, as they do. We're talking about how violence is kind of sensationalized and made a joke sometimes, which is very unfortunate. But this ad it made it through somebody's desk to say this is a great idea, let's print and make this and publish it. And the second it was published, it was pulled. And this was a few years ago. I definitely didn't see it, here in my area, but just the idea of cheat on your girlfriend, not on your workout. When I talked to my friends and I shared this with them because I like to do that to get reactions, they thought it was pretty funny because they didn't take it seriously. But why is, fitness and promoting fitness, why does that need to be attached to, trust in relationships? It's not really helping to promote that. Just the same thing with Valentino. And before we go on to the other one, I do want to address something that was chatted to me, and I did follow that link. And it was about a shirt that is still, and it was from a Yahoo, and I'll recopy that link. But this was just September 24th, 2014, so just yesterday. And when we talk about advertisements, we know sometimes we are walking advertisements when we wear T-shirts. So this shirt says, it's not rape, it's a snuggle with a struggle. And it has two hands forming a heart. So it's not rape, it's a snuggle with a struggle. Like that message, I just found that out. Thank you for sharing. I think it was Randall. Randall, thank you for sharing that because I hadn't seen that. And a snuggle with a struggle, they're trying to make it cute, but it's not cute. It's not funny. And at some point, we'll talk about this in a few minutes, well, we need to take, be online activists and make it something positive. So here's the Macy's ad you'll see, and we try to focus on something healthy, and this could be seen as a healthy ad because it's, gift giving and they're both smiling, but it is definitely more of a challenge to find the healthier ones. So moving forward, just some questions to think about. When we see these issues in media, who's responsible for what is covered? Is it our responsibility to speak up, and how can we change this media culture? So these three questions, we'll be answering them throughout the next few slides, but go ahead and feel free to chat in your responses to any of these three questions. Specifically, the one I think is most interesting to ask is, how can we change media culture? So I'm going to go ahead and move forward, but go ahead and chat your responses. So going into answering that, how can we change media culture? And I'm going to put that in there. So media culture can be changed in many ways, and we talked about hashtags and online activism. I know recently with the Ray Rice incident, we've seen the hashtags why I stayed or why I left, and we're going to definitely talk about that. But we want to encourage young people and parents to take what we see as negative and turn it into something positive. Have group conversations. Talk about the concerns. Talk about why we need to raise awareness if we're using Facebook, Twitter, and all of that. So we're going to go into a campaign that is currently running throughout the month of October, and this is the Voices Have Power campaign. So on voiceshavepower.com, you can send a message of hope to a survivor or a victim of abuse. You can do this in many ways. You can go onto the website and type in a message. You can tag the hashtag Voices Have Power to any of your posts on any social media, and you can also text the number 94079. So this is something that you can do with your children, with the youth you work at. You can do right now. When we talked about incorporating memes, we generated a meme, which is a picture, and it says, this is an actual post that Break the Cycle, our Twitter account, posted, and it says, "You are stronger than you know." And what we did is we made that a visual, and we shared that image. And that is a way to turn what we see negative into something positive online through online activism. Going to the next slide, in response, adding on to the hashtag Voices Have Power campaign, we have these two hashtags that are they basically went viral. And we have, it was a survivor, Beverly Gooden, who created this hashtag in response to Ray Rice and that scandal, and seeing that video. And people were asking, well, why did Janae Rice stay? Why didn't she leave? And we hear this time and time again. How come they just don't leave? If they don't like to be abused, why don't they go? And these comments are victim blaming at its best. So what people did is they came together to create these hashtags where it's really empowering people, survivors, to go ahead and shed light to why they stay. There are many obstacles that people don't understand. So if you have Twitter, or if you just want to Google, even if you don't have Twitter, if you Google any of these hashtags, you can see some pretty inspiring posts. And we have 3 here, and I'll just read off one. It's hashtag why I stayed. He told me no one will ever love you like I do. Hashtag why I left. I realized that no one should ever love me like he did, because love definitely is not abuse. So here's just a few samples, and we have a group of young people, 12 to 24. We have our National Youth Advisory Board, and they're currently using these hashtags. And what they are doing is they're viewing these hashtags and then responding to these survivors with messages of hope using the hashtag Voices Have Power hashtag. You can say hashtag a million times in a sentence, and it's still the pound sign to me, but keeping up with the trends, it is a hashtag, and what that does is it tags every single person who uses that into a bigger conversation. So just continuing the conversation theme, just wanted to give you some few tips on how to keep the conversation about unhealthy and abusive relationships, how to keep it relatable, and how to keep it, how to get it started. So 1, we need to create an open environment. 2, start the talk. I know we may not want to as parents, but have the conversation, whether you use any of these things that we talked about, whether you just want to say, hey, I learned about a hashtag today. What hashtags have you seen? You're starting the conversation. Another important thing is to make sure that your location and timing is appropriate. I know for many teens and adolescents, and I'll speak to when I was a teen, there wasn't any time that I really, really wanted to talk to my mom, but I appreciated the fact that she would make that awkward step forward and say, we're going to talk about this. So you want to make sure that you have your undivided attention, but you're also using relevant examples, and you're checking in often, and you're checking in about how they feel, not just assuming that they think one way about Snapchat. And, for example, or they think that Snapchat's really fun. Maybe they don't like Snapchat. So check in with them and check your preconceived notions about what you think they believe. And understand what they're saying and answer honestly. So I'm going to click through these, and they have some tips. I'm going to go through them briefly, but these slides will be available, and we'll send the email to you later so you can expand on these conversation starters. But I think the first thing to do is kind of address relatable couples. So what couples do you know? Choose a couple. Think about their relationship. This can be a couple that they know personally or a couple that they know through TV. Address arguments. Often we have conversations about what is abusive, but we don't address how to go through when we are feeling tense and we're arguing. So talk about that, and then address values as well. What's important in a friendship is an easy question, like how do you want your friends to treat you? Takes away the awkward romantic side of relationship with parents and teens, and it brings it down to a level, well, I want my friend to treat me with respect. Well, that's what you should expect in a romantic dating relationship as well. Continuing with conversation starters, you want to also give them the chance to think about their ideal relationship. Everyone has this idea of what healthy is, but sometimes we don't say it or we don't follow that roadmap. And what I always say is I get young people to say, okay, what do you want in a relationship? I want someone to trust me. I want someone to respect me. I want someone who, lets me hang out with my friends. And then we analyze, well, what tends to happen in relationships? How would we deal with someone who is saying, you can't go out with your friends because I want you to go out with me? So you really want to get them to address things and when it's appropriate to speak up and how to speak up. And it definitely where to go to get help. So again, two things about keeping the conversations going: respect boundaries and privacies, and make sure to relate the information to your child, what they are going through, and being vulnerable and knowing that we may not be the experts in day-to-day, but they are. So let's learn and grow from them and have these conversations as we move forward. So just real quick, if you're focusing on healthy relationships, talk about your relationship values. Provide another perspective. This could be from, a supportive family member, a friend, but also tell the whole truth, good and bad. We know that we see these movies on TV and everything's rainbows and cupcakes, but that's not every relationship, and it's okay. Teach assertiveness and not aggressiveness is very important, and that can go hand in hand with teaching young people how to deal with these obstacles and arguments in relationships. So here's the webinar recap. We can definitely talk hours and hours on social media, but I want to give you a chance to kind of recap what we talked about today and definitely ask us some questions in the chat bar. We'll open it up for questions now for the last few minutes that we have, and we will put our contact info on the next slide. So if you do have questions you want to ask us directly and you want help continuing this conversation, we can definitely send you some resources.
And I'm just going to take the opportunity while you all are getting your questions out to respond to that Kik app. Some people are asking, what it is exactly. And so Kik is used by 150 million people, which is, a lot of young people using it. But it is like Snapchat in the sense that it allows photos to be sent, but it also can do more than that. You can share games, music, celebrity gossip, and it has different, outlets that you can send, like memes, like we showed you. So it's just another way to send information, but I know that you can use that anywhere. When I was studying abroad, I know people were using Kik because they didn't want to use their cellular data. So it's a great app for that, and that's a popular one as well. So thank you for bringing that up.
And one thing I will say is that we always think that text messaging can only happen through cell phones, and if your child or young person that you know has an iPod, they can definitely download something like Kik and use it just like they would to send those text messages. Yes, this is being recorded, and we will share the recording, and we will also upload it on our YouTube page as soon as we get it. So you can definitely share the recording with anyone else that you feel that it would be helpful for, and the slides will also be available to you. Okay, so I see a few questions. From Deb, it's the best time the best time to talk to your son was somewhere where he didn't have to look at you, which seemed to help him be able to say things he wouldn't normally say. Yeah, so when it's not this awkward, police interrogation room style thing, yes, that definitely creating a helpful environment where they feel comfortable is, something that would go far. And we know that because they're always behind the computer screen, eye-to-eye contact is a little awkward, and it can be awkward for adults too. So create an open space. Maybe you're both taking some notes or into this app or something that you're trying to be on your phone, and it may seem like you're not giving your full attention, but the attention is on the conversation. Okay. Yeah, it's hard to do this code switching type of, I'm your parent, I want to protect you, but I also want you to not do anything wrong and make sure you're always safe. But as long as we can have a healthy balance and healthy boundaries, then we will go a long way with the conversations. I think half the time is that we're scared to have these conversations because they are so personal, and for a long time, violence as an issue in general was something you didn't talk about. But our whole campaign and the whole program is start talking. So the more that we talk about this, maybe the less awkward it would get. I don't know, maybe teens and parents will always have that balance, but we do have resources available to try to bridge that gap, and that's what we can do. We can open the door, keep that bridge open, and have those conversations. I'm going to wrap up now. We're about a minute over, but if you do have more questions, go ahead and put it in the public chat feature. Here, both my email, jceja@breakthecycle.org, and Christina Marie's email, csantillan@breakthecycle.org. And just make sure you also keep that information for Love is Respect, and Love is Respect is the project between both Break the Cycle and the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That is our partnership. That is where our resources come through Love is Respect. And there's also, having the conversation also means pass the information, share the information on where else they can go to get help. So if they don't want to talk directly, Love is Respect has a 24/7 resource. They can text, chat, or call. Okay, Ariel, we're going to pass to you now to do the end of session survey, and we appreciate your feedback, and if there is any other questions that you have beyond this session, please feel free to email us.